Hey there, Jester here. I know I've been gone through all of October, but I've been busy, winterizing the place and, getting the humidifier going and working on various projects. So what I'm going to be doing today is working on a new big painting. So what happened with the Tyrannosaurus one? Well, Ira, if you could show that on screen. Yeah, there we go. So as you can see, I finished that. It's been varnished so that the sparkles don't come off, and I attached some dollar store greenery to it to give it a little bit of an effect of, being in the forest and, peering through the vegetation at the Tyrannosaur. But now I am working on a bird painting, and sirens are going by. We live in a city. Well, so now I need to work on this bird painting for the doctor's niece. And as you can see, I haven't gotten too far yet. I've got a little bit of the background done, but the birds are still just kind of blobs. And today I'm going to be working on my cardinal. So another thing I wanted to show you was, the doctor had been missing their squeaky, so I made a little squeaky toy for them. So I'll show you how to make these one of these days. But today I've got painting to do, so I'm going to sit back there and go to the overhead camera so you can see. I think I should be working on the cardinal today. So let's get squeaky out of the way. Now the fun thing about cardinals is that they are red. They are just red and not much else is going on with them. So I'm going to make me some red. And then I'm going to do a couple more that I'm going to be mixing other colors into, because I'm going to want, colors for shading. And of course with red, to make a shadow color, you want to use the opposite, so that's green. I'm going to put a couple drops of green in there, and maybe a little bit of yellow in my other red. For the beak and the feet, even though they're not particularly a different color. I'm going to make that green a little darker. Now, one of the biggest problems that I had with laying out this particular painting was finding, references for, the wings and the coloring and stuff, because there's just so much AI slop out there these days that it's hard to find real references. And I need references because I'm not really great at birds. So using image searches was not bringing up anything terribly useful. So I was mostly on Wikipedia and iNaturalist to get a better idea of anatomy and such, because wings are really quite difficult. If you don't have the right wing, you don't have the right bird. Yes, so yeah, cardinals are basically just red. They even got red beaks and red feet. They just got a little bit of black on their head. But right now, I'm just going to start with, I think I'm going to start with putting some feathers on the wings. I'm going to want my bigger brush for that. I'm just going to start with basic red. So I'm just going to be kind of putting feathers on there. Yeah, so they kind of do this fan thing from one point. And then they start kind of coming off more like that. Of course, I had to pick difficult things like wings up and wings down and whatnot, because that is just how I live. And give it a little round body. I want it to be nice and red because I painted it on a blue background, so the pure red isn't always coming through. All right. That should give a fairly basic bird shape. Now what do I want to do? I think I'm going to mark in the feet and the beak. So I'm going to use a slightly oranged red just to make it a little different. Now, cardinals have nice thick beaks for eating seeds. They're going to have their little feet tucked up a little for flying. Now I think I'm going to start adding a little bit of shading. So I've got my darker red, and I'm going to bring that down along the tummy. That's not much darker at all. Maybe I'm going to put a little bit of black in there. Where's my black? There it is. To darken that up a little more. There's my darker stick. Okay, that's too much. So I'm going to start another red over here. And I'm just going to scoop a little bit of that into there. And that will make a darker red. Okay, let's see how this turns out against. Not much different. can never claim to be a good painter. But the thing with paint is you can always just add a little more, subtract a little more. In some ways, it's quite forgiving. Okay, so that gives us a little bit of shadow. And I'm going to put some shadow on the wings, so the feathers are a little more defined. So these are just the flight feathers, and then they've got like smaller feathers in here. And I think I'm just going to make a little more abstract, since I'm not really great at, you know, bird anatomy, especially not their little wings. That comes in there, and then they've got the crest. It kind of became a little blob in there, so let's find that, and I'm going to go to the tail feathers. Put a little definition there. Some straight red, and just kind of blend that. Now for highlights, I'm going to use my lighter red, and I'm going to, that little orangey red, I'm going to kind of bring that down in there. Some little feathers in there. Highlight on the head. We can go over the beak again. And I'm going to go over the feet again. Now we're going to do the tail feathers. Okay, that's looking a little more birdish. Get some of that really dark. Kind of go under the tum and under the head, just to kind of give it a little more definition. And then I'm going to just kind of blend that out. My The red shadow. And on the tail. And on the wing. I'm just going to put that on some of the feathers, like some of the lower ones. There we go. And then just kind of blend that out a little. And if we think it's too dark, we get a little medium red. Get our basic red, and we just kind of go back in there. And we just kind of keep fiddling with our shades until we get something that we like. I do want to make my light red a little lighter, so I think I'm going to add a little bit of white. I'm going to start that in a new one. So it's not blended correctly. This one's going to need a good shake. All right. A little bit of white in here. And then I'm going to take some of my light red. Get a new stir stick. I'm going to add light red to that. It's turning very, very pink. I had too much white in there. Take some of my regular red and darken that up a little. Because I don't want it to be pastel specifically. I want it to be light red, but not a pastel, which is tricky. Red is just very, very red. And once you start adding white, it becomes pink. I don't necessarily want pink. There, that's still pink-ish, but it's more of a salmon. I'm going to take that. And I'm going to start. Yeah, that's very light, but that's okay. I can just kind of blend that in. And I mostly want it for highlights. Put that on some of the feathers, but again, not all. Mostly the higher up ones. A few in here. Highlight that down there. Some on the tail. All right, that's looking fairly birdy. Now I'm going to want to add some black for his around his face. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to take my too dark red. I'm going to add a little more black to it. Another drop. So that it's not perfectly black, but I do want some straight black for his eye. So I'm going to put a little bit there. So now I'm going to mix up my very dark red Generally, with the more natural a picture is, you don't want to use flat black or flat white. It doesn't look quite right. So let's see. So it kind of comes around the beak. And he's going to have kind of a bib that comes down. And it's going to kind of come back to give him a little mask. Mac Mac. I have a mewy cat. He's decided it's playing with sponges time, and he wants to tell me all about it. But I'm busy filming. Yeah, baby. Busy filming. Come over here, I'll put you on camera. No. There we go. Yeah, now that he's got the black on him, he's looking very much more like a cardinal. Yes, this is a male cardinal. The females are more brownish. But I wanted the bright colored one. I've got some straight black. I'm gonna put a little eye on him. There we go. All right, I don't think that's completely 100% done. I'm going to definitely fuss with my cardinal more later. But, for now, I think I am going to tidy up, and then I've got other chores that I need to do this afternoon. So, but I made quite a good start on my cardinal, and I will be fussing with him over the next few weeks, and hopefully I can get this painting done in time for Christmas. Until next time, stay crafty. Mac Mac.